Hello, welcome back to Algebra 1. We're going to continue getting more practice with solving these single-step equations using multiplication and division. The problems will get a little more complicated as we go, but as you're building your skills, you shouldn't find that they're too difficult because I'm kind of taking our time to make sure we're doing everything right. So here we have 1/3 times y is equal to 2 1/3. Now this really confuses a lot of students. What do you do when you have a mixed number like that, a mixed fraction? Well, there's lots of ways you can handle it. What I'm going to tell you to do is convert this to an improper fraction. It's almost always easier that way. So the first step along the way is we want to rewrite this as 1/3 times y is equal to, what do you do here? 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, so that's 7/3. Now that is going to be a lot easier to deal with, believe it or not. Now here we have 1/3 y, which you can kind of think of y as y divided by 3 is really what's going on there. There's different ways to think about it, but the 3 is on the bottom, so you're basically dividing by 3. So in order to get rid of that, you want to multiply by 3. So we'll, on the left-hand side, let me rewrite the whole thing. We'll multiply the left-hand side by 3, and we'll also multiply the right-hand side by 3. And as I've been telling you, when you start seeing numbers like, in this case, you have a 3 on the top and a 3 on the bottom, because there's an implied 1 here, 3 over 1, right? 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom. You can cancel those because 3 divided by 3 is going to give you 1. On the same thing's going to happen on the right. 3 divided by 3 is going to give you 1. So when you see a number in the top and a number in the bottom, just go ahead and cancel him. So on the left, all you have left is y, because this 1 here is just multiplied. So you just have y, and on the right, all you have is 7. So you found the answer. Y is equal to 7. So if you were to take 7 and put it in here, what is 1/3 times 7? It's going to be 7/3, which is what this number is. So you've found the problem. You found the solution. Not that difficult, but when you have mixed numbers, a lot of people don't know what to do with them. Now, what if you have negative y over 3 is equal to 3 2/3? I'm going to always recommend you change those mixed numbers into improper fractions. So negative y over 3, on the right-hand side, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11, and the denominator stays the same, so it's 11/3. If you don't remember how to do that, go back and review the fractions I've taught you, and would do this a lot. So again, same thing. I want to get y by himself. I'm dividing by 3. Okay, I'm dividing by 3. There's a couple of different ways you can do this, but you know, you can either do a bunch of different small steps, or you can start to combine steps a little bit. At the end of the day, I want to get y by himself, but I have a negative here, and then I have the 3 here. So what I can do is, since this is negative y over 3, and then over here 11 over 3, I can do whatever I want to both sides. So here I can multiply by 3, but if I multiply by 3, it's going to cancel with the 3 here, but I'll still have the negative sign there. So that's fine, and I can just get rid of the negative sign later, or I can just multiply by negative 3 right now, and I'll multiply this by negative 3. I can do whatever I want to both sides. Now this has a nice advantage, because now the 3's will cancel, and notice that what I have here is negative times this negative gives you positive, so that basically kills the negative sign too. And so all you have is positive y, and then over here on the right hand side, what you have is the 3 is going to cancel with the 3. Now I still have the negative sign over there, so this is going to be negative 11. So the answer is negative 11. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it. I mean, here in this step, instead of multiplying by negative 3, I could have just multiplied by positive 3. That would have canceled the 3's, and then I would have had a negative y here is equal to something, and I could have gotten y positive as we've done in the past. But then you recognize, well, I really want to get rid of both of them, so I just multiply by negative 3. Negative times negative gives me positive 1. 3 on top and bottom cancel, so all I have is positive y, and then at the end of the day, the same thing happens here. 3 cancels with 3, the negative sign's still there, so he becomes negative 11. Lots of different ways to do things in algebra. You have lots of different, lots of flexibility once you kind of know what you're doing. As long as you're being legal, it's totally fine, however you want to do it. Negative x divided by 12 is equal to 1/4. How do I do this? Let's do it. Let's do it the way we did it recently. So we want to get x by himself, but we have this 12 here, and we also have the negative 1. So what we could do is rewrite the problem, negative x over 12. We're going to multiply by negative 12. And on the right, we'll have the 1/4. we'll multiply by negative 12. Okay, so what's going to happen on the left is the 12 is going to cancel with the 12 on the top, but negative times negative also gives me positive, so all I have left on the left is x. On the right, this is where things get a little bit interesting, okay? So what I have on the right-hand side, I have negative 12. This is negative 12 over 1 implied. So negative 12 times the 1, when you multiply the fraction, is going to give you negative 12 on the top over 4 on the bottom. Now, what is negative 12 divided by 4? 12 divided by 4 is 3, but negative divided by positive is negative, so it's going to be negative 3. So you have to remember those rules. And you have negative 3. So again, I could have done the same thing. Instead of multiplying by the negative 12 here, I could have multiplied by positive 12. That would have been fine. I would have canceled the 12s, but this negative sign would have remained. And I would have had negative x is equal to some stuff over here, and then I would have to get rid of the negative sign as we have done in some of the previous problems. Now we have one final problem that we're going to do, and I'm going to solve it in a different way to show you there's always different ways to do things in algebra. So here I have negative 5/3 x is equal to 10. All right, there's always different ways to do things in algebra. So here I have negative 5/3. To get x by himself, I can multiply by 3/5. And in fact, I can multiply by negative 3/5. The negatives would cancel, and then the 3's would cancel, and the 5's would cancel, and then that would get x by himself. But there's always different ways to do things in algebra. This is a fraction, negative 5/3 times x. So I could do the opposite. I could divide the entire left-hand side by a fraction called negative 5/3. And then I could divide the right-hand side by a fraction called negative 5/3. So a fraction is just a fraction. It's just a number. So you can treat it as a number, and I can basically divide the left and the right by that fraction. Now what's that going to do? The negative 5/3 from the here is going to cancel with the negative 5/3 from there. So what I'm going to have on the left-hand side is just x. On the right-hand side, I have 10, which is 10 over 1, divided by this fraction. Now remember, when we learn how to divide fractions, we always change it into multiplication. Multiply, and then you flip the bottom fraction over in order to change it into multiplication. So this is basically going to be what you have here on the right-hand side, just to spell it out, is 10 over 1 divided by negative 5/3. That's what's really happening here. But you can write that as 10 over 1 multiplied, and you just flip it over, negative 3/5. You change division. When you're dividing fractions, you change the division into multiplication, and you flip the second fraction over. So then what you have is x is equal to, you multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. So the negative sign is going to come here. You'll have 30 on the top, and on the bottom you'll have 5. So x is going to be equal to negative 6. Because 30 divided by 5 is 6, and you have the negative sign there. So again, it's just a slightly different way to do it. It's fine either way. You could do it the way that we've been doing some of these other ones to get the variable by itself, or you can just divide the whole darn left-hand side by the fraction, getting the variable by himself, knowing that when you divide the right by the fraction, you should change them into multiplication, flip it over, and then do the multiplication and simplification of the fraction to get the final answer of negative 6. Many, many ways to do problems in algebra. As long as you know that what you're doing is legal and okay to do, you're free to choose whatever path you want. So make sure you understand this. Follow me on to the next lesson. We'll continue building our skills in this class.